Okay, everyone, the meeting is now live to the public and being recorded. Over to you, Chair.
I think the chair's muted.
I'm trying to unmute him. Colin.
All right, am I back again?
Right. You are?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Good evening and welcome to East Devon District Council's virtual scrutiny meeting on the 10th of September 2020. I am your chairman, Councillor Colin Brown, and I would like to welcome anyone watching the meeting via live streaming. All participants here today are taking part remotely, and as well as being live streamed, the meeting is being recorded, so please bear in mind throughout. And may I remind you to be careful with your language. May I also remind members that the Code of Conduct applies throughout this meeting. We also reserve the right to remove and disconnect any participant who is disrupting the meeting by whatever means. Please turn any telephone devices off or to silence. As this scrutiny meeting is dependent on internet connection and a power supply, in the event of a break in the internet connection or power cut, please bear with us and we will try to reconnect. After 15 minutes, if we are not able to reconnect, we will consider the meeting adjourned and reconvene at a later date. Please check the committee pages on our website for details. Please make sure all microphones are muted when you are not speaking to avoid any background noise levels. Please keep points short and do not repeat points that have already been made, and do not interrupt. If you wish to comment, please raise your electronic blue hand and wait to be called. All councillors have been sent an agenda for today's meeting. Any members of the public who want to view the agenda can do so by visiting our website, www.eastdevon.gov.uk. We will now start the meeting by doing a roll call of committee members here present. Can you please now unmute your microphones, and when you hear your name, please confirm by saying present. When you have confirmed you are present, please mute your microphone again.
Councillor Brown.
Present.
Councillor Ranger.
Present.
We're struggling to hear you, Chris.
Councillor Chapman.
Present.
Councillor Coleman.
Apologies from Councillor Coleman.
Chubb. Apologies. Councillor Chubb. Councillor Davey. Councillor Hawkins.
He's
Councillor Johns.
Present.
Councillor King.
Present.
Councillor McCullum. Councillor Parr.
Present.
Councillor Reliance.
Reliance, yeah, present.
Klepper. Councillor Taylor.
Present.
Councillor Wright. Chairman, I can confirm we are quorate today.
Thank you. Councillor Hawkins sent me his apologies. The first item on the agenda is public speaking. As I understand it, there are no public speakers registered today.
That's correct, Chairman, yes.
Item 2, minutes of the previous meeting. If anyone has comments on the set of minutes from the 21st of May 2020, please do this by raising your blue hand. If I have no blue hands raised, I will take that as an indication you all agree to the minutes of the previous meeting. Yeah. I can't see.
I can't see any blue hands, Chair.
No, nor can I. No. Right, thank you. The minutes of the previous meeting are agreed. Item 3, apologies. I think we've had the apologies. That'll be just from Chris Hawkins. I don't know about the other people.
I've had apologies from Paul Jarvis, Sam Hawkins, Jeff Pratt, Andrew Ennis, Tony McCullum and Councillor Coleman. Now, Chairman, thank you.
Right, thank you. Item 4, declarations of interest. This will be done by roll call.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Brown.
None.
Councillor Ranger.
None.
Councillor Chapman.
None.
Councillor Johns.
None.
Councillor King.
None.
Councillor Parr.
None.
Councillor Rylance.
None that I'm aware of.
Councillor Taylor.
None.
Thank you, Chair.
Right. Agenda. Where are we? Agenda item matters of urgency. There are none. Agenda item 6, confidential exempt items. There are no confidential exempt items which officers recommend should be dealt with in this way. Matters of decision. Agenda item 7, decision made by Cabinet called by members for scrutiny in accordance with the overview scrutiny procedure rule. There are no such items. Agenda item 8, quarterly monitoring performance. An update of the report will be presented by Karen Simpkins, Strategic Lead, Organisational Development and Transformation.
Chairman, Karen isn't with us tonight, I'm afraid, so I'm presenting it on her behalf, and by presenting, I'm introducing it really. I would say that the report is in front of members. It only deals with the first quarter, and it only deals with the council-wide priorities given the COVID situation and obviously the change in administration. So obviously the information is detailed there. I'm happy to take any questions there may be and do my best to answer them in Karen's absence. And I know that John and Simon are here as well, so they may be able to chip in and answer it if it's relevant to them. But I'm happy to take any questions there maybe. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Members can raise their blue hand. I see a question from Councillor Eleanor Ryans.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Okay, so my question for Henry is, there's quite a lot of red in this report. Can we put it all down to COVID pretty much and a cessation of our activities in some areas?
You're muted, Henry.
I beg your pardon. Yeah, so the paragraph 2 information is detailing those areas that are in red. And if you read through that, it is pretty much because of the COVID situation.
Thank you, Henry. Are there any other questions from non-members of this committee? If so, raise your blue hands. No, we have no questions. Members of the committee, please indicate if you're required to speak.
Chair,
Councillor
I think
Rylance?
Councillor Rylance. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I just wanted to say that I'm just really, really impressed about how well our council activities carried on. You know, as we went into a completely unexpected situation, I just think it's astonishing that we managed to carry on so well. And I'm just really, really proud of the organisation and how well we did, really. Given how, you know, how we could not have been prepared for something on this scale, but actually we managed it and you guys managed it, and I'm really impressed. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. We then move on to agenda item 9, car park Taff membership. We've got to review the car parking Taff membership because we've had a change of council. We need a nomination for the way the Taff will work from now on, and we need to arrange councillors for it because we can't have the same ones as before because there was a number of people on the cabinet. Would you like to say something, Henry?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so I mean, the background, it was reported at the last Scrutiny Committee. It's in the minutes. Obviously, it was established at the back end of 2019. Somewhat unusually, the group was quite large. It's usually around 7 members, but there's no reason why it couldn't be slightly bigger. And I think it was closer to 15 was the size that was agreed by the committee when it set it up. So that's something that the committee might want to consider. But the main point, as you quite rightly identified, Chair, is that with the change in administration and membership of the various committees and cabinet particularly, the membership of the Taff as was established was no longer appropriate. Members of cabinet cannot sit on that committee, and it's appropriate for this committee now to review the makeup of that Taff and indeed its terms of reference and what the committee wants it to do. So I would ask that perhaps the committee, if it wants to have a conversation about how many members should sit, and if considered appropriate, that once it's established how many, that it gives authority to me to work with the group leaders, as we have done on a number of the panels and forums, to work with me to establish that makeup, which I can then confirm to enable the work to continue. And then you might also want to consider sort of giving direction to the car parking Taff about the work that it's doing, again, in light of the change in administration and where things are going. Thank you, Chair. Thank you,
Henry. You know, I personally think that a car parking Taff, like Henry says, of 7 people, we will get more done in a shorter space of time. I don't know what other members seem to think on that. If you'd like to raise your blue hands, I've got a few blue hands coming up. Councillor Parr.
Yes, Chairman, I completely agree with you. I would have thought that the normal size of a Taff is 7 members. I can't see why you need huge number more than that. And as Henry says, if it can then be delegated for party leaders to put people forward, I would have thought that's the way to organise it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I get clarification from Henry, please? Does this include the camper vans? Exmouth Town Council got Taff, and they reported back to the Scrutiny Taxi Working Party group. So will the car parking take in the camper vans as well, under the new setup?
Henry, would you like to answer that one?
Yeah. Well, I'll try. I mean, really, it's for the Scrutiny Committee to establish what it wants the Taff to actually look at. I mean, when it was established, it was obviously following in a call-in of the cabinet decision in relation to car parking charges. So it was, as I recollect it, and I wasn't at the meeting when it was established, but my recollection is that it was set up to review the council's general approach to car parking to help inform the decision on the future strategy for car parking. And of course, the council have now reserved for itself the car parking strategy. So to my mind, the car parking Taff is now sort of fundamental part of the jigsaw in the council developing its car parking strategy, which ultimately council will approve. So I think it's for the committee to decide what it wants to look at, but it should be in the bounds of developing the car parking strategy. And in that sense, I would have thought the motorhome approach is part and parcel of that.
Did you want to come back on that, Councillor Chapman?
Yes, please. Yes, I would very much like to recommend that we agree to have the camper vans put in with the car parking, because obviously John Golding and Andrew Ennis have done a lot of work on the camper vans, and we're looking at the pricing, etc. So it seems to me, if you're looking at the car parks along the coast, etc., where the majority of camper vans are, it would make sense as to where the camper vans would be parking and what the overnight charges would be. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Ranger, you've got your blue hand raised.
I have, thank you. So I just wanted to make the point really that, you know, I agree we can have a reduced number of people on the Taff, but I just think we have to remember that all councillors are welcome to these meetings. We do get a higher attendance at the Zoom meetings than we used to get to the meetings in person. And so, you know, these meetings do take longer just because we have better attendance and more people giving input. But, you know, so in a way, I think the actual size of the Taff, the membership size, you know, can be smaller, but it's in a way it's not so relevant. I do have a list of suggestions for things that might want to be included and things that we might want to leave out. I don't know if you want to discuss that now, and I would like to put myself forward to be on that as well, to be on that Taff.
Thank you. John Golding, you've got your blue hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've got the terms of reference for the Taff that was set up. These date back to November 2019, and I can confirm that under heading of economy, camper vans and motorhomes were included in the original terms of reference. I don't think the Taff have got round to reviewing that yet, but they're certainly included in terms of reference at the moment.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Any non-members that would like to speak?
Got a few speakers there, Chair.
I've got blue hands raised there from Councillor Ranger and Councillor Parr. Would Councillor Ranger like to speak?
Yes. So I'm just going to then go through some of the points that I thought should come forward, just for the record. So I think that we should look at the previous recommendations of the former Taff and whether any of those should stand. I think that's the first thing. We had a couple of options put forward by Andrew Ennis that weren't actually brought to the previous Taff, and I think those points were quite important, and I have put those on a spreadsheet which I will circulate to people, to councillors, so that they can see the progress that was made and see which bits of that you want to keep and want to leave out. I think it's important to look at a tourist tax. I think we need to look to write to town and parish councils, and where car parks are costing the council money, ask them if they wish to take them over, either, you know, in the short term, medium or longer term. I think we need to look at the electric hookup situation and the charging points, looking at cost, income, the number available, sort of timescale we might look at, future-proofing those to make sure that we're not installing something that is out of date in 5 minutes, and include other matters for climate change, such as planting and greening up car parking space. I had on my list camper van management in Exmouth, particularly parking overnight on residents' permits, but not actually sleeping in your van. So in fact, where residents have small vans, utility type vans, that they have parked overnight, and that has caused some issues. And also the provision by East Devon District Council of some dedicated camper van parking with additional facilities, such as the brown water disposal and other facilities that might be useful. Cashless and carbon neutral ticketing trial. I know Councillor Paul Miller contacted me. There is a proposal for that, and it might be useful with the chairman's agreement for Councillor Miller to talk to us today about that. Other points were, should we early on invite chambers of commerce and various representatives of towns and parish councils to come to the earlier meetings to give their input. I feel like I've skipped something. So I think the focus should be with the budget setting for next year coming at us quite quickly. I think we do need to prioritise those issues that need to go into the budget quickly for next year. So I was looking back at the terms of reference from the November 2019 minutes, and there were other issues that deserve consideration, but I thought not in such a tight timescale. So for example, free parking for staff, that situation has changed really with COVID-19 because public transport's not such a great option at the moment. Barrier entry systems for 24-hour parking, I thought were a bit of a bigger issue. I think easily dealt with is something like the community support concessions, which I think we still want to be supporting, things like the lifeboat and things like that. And then there were some other more minor issues, boat parking perhaps, and advertising space. I feel like there's something that I've missed, but I can't think what it is. So I'll stop there. I don't know what other councillors think. I think actually Councillor Hayward, is here, yes. I think he might have some views that he'd like to put forward as well with the chairman's agreement.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of things to get in such a short space of time that we've got. But yeah, right. We've got Councillor Helen Parr who's got a blue hand raised.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I just wondered, could Henry please read out the terms of reference so we actually know what the committee is supposed to be looking at, and then we can add in.
I think John said he had them actually, not me, but yeah, I'm sure John wouldn't mind reading them out for you.
I'm happy to do that. They're quite long, several pages of them, but Chairman, if you wish me to, I'm happy to do that. No,
okay, could you circulate them or tell us where they are so we can get to the link for them?
Or can you give an abbreviate what they are?
Yes, I could do. Yeah, I'll try that. So the terms of reference were under 6 headings. The first heading was asset management. So obviously managing our 57 car parks, I think it is, having regard to good asset management and the income generation potential that they obviously provide the council. The second heading was communities, and that was all around considering concessions, free parking offers, permits, and how we treat our regular customers. The third heading was economy, and that was around setting reasonable tariffs, our winter offers, whether we charge for park and ride, boat storage, those sorts of things. Then the fourth heading was statutory, it's called, but that's very much around ensuring that our charges are legal. We have proper on-street and off-street parking arrangements, safe arrangements, etc. The fifth heading was climate change emergency, with no detail under that, but that's useful to have in, I would argue. And the final heading was equality and health and wellbeing issues.
Thank you. I've got a blue hand raised from Councillor Paul Hayward.
Evening, everyone. Hope you're all well. Sorry, I'm just having to park myself away so the dogs don't bark. Yes, obviously delighted to listen in on this. A couple of questions, Mr. Chair. I suppose the first one is really just to clarify what the committee's objection is to having 11 people on the TAF. My own, feelings and my own experience of such things, essentially a quasi-working party, is the more insight you have. I mean, it's not a decision-making body, so the more you have people with their ideas and their input, essentially the better set of ideas come out of it. And that's not to say the 7 people who will ultimately be nominated won't come up with good ideas, but I just think 11, it's only 1/6 of the council. It's the size of a medium-sized committee, and it just 7 just seems a bit too few, really. And that's my thought on that. The other issue is from the list of things that John's kindly read out of the terms of reference, obviously a lot of them fall into economy and assets and tourism and car parks, all of which fall under my portfolio. So I'm going to be obviously trying to watch as many of these as I can and participate as fully as I can amongst all the other things I'm involved with. But I'm just wondering, Mr. Chair, in your view, and perhaps Henry might be the best person to answer, what's the, and I appreciate we're in a strange world with COVID, but what's the time frame usually for a TAF to consider and then deliver back? Because obviously these decisions are important to every member and every community and the entire district council. And I'm sure if Councillor Rowland was here, he'd be saying the same thing, that this is cash money we're talking about, and we've got to get it right. We've got to support our economies in the town centres and the trading areas. We've got to support our tourist areas, but we've got to be pragmatic, and pragmatism is going to come across as the big thing here. Every member, generally, through not deliberately, but inevitably, will hold some parochial views about their own parking in their own town, and that's understandable because they've got to walk around their towns and face the ire of frustrated and aggrieved parking users. But I'm just wondering how long this might take, or how long you want it to take, and arguably what the key ones are. I mean, Councillor Ranger kindly read out a list of topics, all of which I applaud because they're all connected and they're all important. But which ones will the TAF, do you think, consider most important? And in the financial crisis, the financial constraints we find ourselves under, perhaps it's going to be how we raise more money, or do we consider as a council that actually the support and the protection of our economic offering to the district and the residents is more important than cash money in the bank? Again, I suppose that's why the TAF's been formed, because it's such a big topic and it will have such a huge impact on the council as it always has. So yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry for your forbearance. I rattled on, but yeah, so whether an idea of how long it might take, yeah, obviously I'll be following it with interest. Thank you.
Right, your first question about why is only 7 on the committee. There is 7 on the committee because 7 people can discuss the ideas put forward by 60 members of the council. So it's not just 7 people making their mind up, it's 60 people talking and 7 people discussing what's been put forward. And I'll pass the other one over to Henry to answer. Henry?
Sorry, thank you, Chair. I've done it again. I'll put myself on mute. If I can just add to what you were saying, the 7 comes from the Constitution, and that the section that deals with panels and forums just says that normally a TAF, which is a forum, would comprise 7 members. It's usually, so there's no reason why it can't be bigger. 10 makes it easier for me from a maths point of view, just working out the numbers. But fundamentally, if you want it to be slightly larger than 7, that is fine. It's up to the committee, really. As to the length of time, well, I'm afraid it's how long's a piece of string, really. It depends on the topic, how big the topic is. if it's pressing, then obviously you have to act quicker, don't you? But there is no definitive time frame for a Taff reporting. What I would say though, and appreciating the mention of the budget essentially, but also balancing that against needs of the residents or the communities. If the budget is the imperative, well then of course you're on a very clear timeline for that, and time is already running very short. But actually, from my perspective at least, this is about developing a car parking strategy that council ultimately adopts, and the budget will clearly flow out from that, or its budgetary impact will flow out from that. But the council needs a strategy, because at the moment it's said it wants a strategy and we don't have one that effectively informs some of the decision making that needs to be taken. So I think it is fairly pressing. My worry, of course, in setting a strategy is how far does that strategy go? How wide does it go in dealing with car parking? And the wider and the bigger it is, the longer it will take to sort it out. So I think there might need to be some further consideration about what that strategy needs to look like. And then that will help inform the work of the Taff in formulating what goes into it. I don't think that's really answered your question, but hopefully it's helped explain some of the difficulties around
it. Councillor Miller.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair. As a former outgoing member of this Taff, I'm now in the cabinet, so can no longer serve on it. Car parking, it's a massive topic, and the membership, I was just checking, was 11. I believe, I might be wrong, Councillor Rowland and myself are the two that have to come off. But if other members want to continue on that committee, on that Taff, I think they should be able to. And to reduce the number from 10 to 7 does seem a little anti-democratic because of the loss of all of the experience and expertise that were brought to the meetings by the members of the Taff. And we had some really fascinating discussions. The last meeting, of many different topics, we were discussing how we might start to introduce cashless machines, which would obviously reduce maintenance of the machines by street scene and reduce costs, and in turn increase revenue. And Councillor Ranger mentioned the project in Exmouth. I'll declare an interest as a director of the Exmouth Queens Drive Community Interest Company, but I'm very pleased to have been able to initiate discussions between Grenadier and the council to look at the potential for the first ever cashless ticketing machine, which could be operated via an app. But this is something that I think would be best to be consulted with the car parking Taff once the composition of it is agreed this evening. I just would gently advise the committee. I would like to hope that the proposed reduction in members to 7, I think would be a bad idea, and I hope the current number of the Taff, given the importance of its work, is maintained. Thanks.
I agree. It would be a bad idea if we stopped other people putting their opinions in, of members of the council. But we're not saying that. We're just saying the committee is only 7. Councillor Ranger.
Yeah, I just wanted to say really that I thought the committee, the Taff committee last time worked really well. It was cross-party. There was a lot of agreement across many aspects. We did have quite a huge range of terms of reference, and there's nothing to say that they won't be changed this time. I think that's part of the point of the new Taff, that we don't, as I understand it, have to have the exact same terms of reference. And I think if we want to make some sort of snappier decisions, then that's what we need to do. Maybe on this occasion for this Taff, reduce it down and perhaps have a sort of short-term decisions that are going to affect the budget for next year, and then some longer-term decisions. Might be a separate Taff. I don't know what other people think about that. My other point was, I think it would be useful to have more input at the start of this one from Simon David, because there were definitely some points about expenses that I was very unclear about last time around, and haven't really quite got to the bottom of. We've been having a little email exchange about that, and I know that Simon can explain some of our costings, I think, if he attended an early meeting and explain those to us, was because we were kind of presented with this is what it costs, but not necessarily understanding those costs, I think.
Right, thank you. Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Chair, very much, and good to see you in this position in your new home now, no longer a hotel. Yes, lots of great stuff being said tonight. I'm just going to share my concern as well. This is obviously financially huge implications for us, absolutely huge. It's an issue that covers live right across the district, where we know that circumstances for parking in Exmouth might be completely different to Seaton or Collerton or Honiton or Ottery or wherever. And I think, as I remember it, that was why the Taff was established with such a large membership of 11. I can see the argument for making it a bit more manageable, but I think 10 is about right, to be honest. I worry about 7. The reason I would advise against 7 is if you get one person offering apologies, or 2 even, but if you start, it starts to get too small. Whereas if at 10 you've got just a little bit of space there, a little bit of headroom if things aren't working out and people can't attend. You've got apologies on scrutiny tonight, I noticed. So anyway, that's just that's what I'd put to the scrutiny committee members. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. I mean, what we can do to make sure we don't get people missing from the Taff is send out a poll beforehand to make sure find out the dates everybody can turn up, and that will counteract that. Thank you. We've got Councillor Ellen Ryans with the blue hand. Councillor Ryans.
Sorry, I'm here. Yeah. Sorry, I hadn't unmuted myself. I mean, I was on the Taff. I've been on the Taff for a few months, and I can honestly say it didn't feel too crowded. I mean, it's a huge topic, and it's going to get huger because of what's hit us really with COVID, and having to rethink how we generate income. I honestly can say that I valued the range of opinions, and I thought that everybody brought something different to the table, and I really didn't feel that 10 was too many at any point. Certainly wasn't too many for people to make their points and to be able to bring that diversity of opinion. And I actually was perfectly happy with it being 10. I think there's a lot of very good reasons for maintaining that number. I honestly can't see a reason to change it. I just think it would become hazardously low if we start, we'd have a smaller diversity of opinion if we had a small number of people. And I think at this point, that's probably not the best option, given that it wasn't a problem. If it wasn't broke, why fix it, really? Sorry, that's just my 2 pennies worth.
Right. Councillor Vicky Johns.
Thank you, Chair. My understanding last year was that the car park in Taff actually had 12 members. So if, as we've been told earlier, 2 of the members are standing down because of cabinet, we're going to have 10 members anyway. We would go down to 10 is what I'm saying. So I think 10 would seem like a perfectly good number. I don't see the reason to have to go down to less than that, as quite rightly pointed out earlier. Every car park across East Devon, and we've got 57 as told earlier or advised earlier, they all have different reasons for being used, etc. Certain car parks have bigger times of year when they're far busier than others. And I think you need the input from more councillors than just 7. I appreciate what you said earlier, where all councillors can give their input, but at the end of the day, I personally think 10 would be a perfectly acceptable number. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mehdi Chapman.
Thank you, Chairman. I was on the car park Taff last time. I thought we'd all done our scrutiny training. We weren't looking at it as purely financial or purely economic. We were looking at each car park, its service, which part of the community were using it, and how we could maintain it, keep it going, make a fair bit of money to maintain it anyway, and do the best that we could for the community. And I don't think any of us sort of disagreed, and I agree with them that we all put our points of view forward. Like if the car park was next to a school and a surgery, then we would think that, you know, certain times of the day it was not feasible to put car parking charges up because people were parking lanes, etc. And we were looking at the whole dynamics. And I think you need enough members to cover the whole area to give the correct input. And last time it worked very well. And Scrutiny, I hate to say to them that are very political, Scrutiny doesn't tend to work on a political basis. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Henry, you want to come back on something?
Thanks, Chair. Let me just say, yeah, I mean, 10's ideal because it's based on the political balance. So the percentages, it just makes it so much easier. So if you take out the 2 cabinet members, then 10 works. If you were also minded, it would still need to be looked at in terms of who those 10 are, though, because I don't think it's balanced. That's the difficulty. So it's going to have to be revisited anyway, with a couple of changes because of the change in the administration and the various parties. So it will have to. The membership's going to have to be looked at one way or another. I think really the issue is whether it's 7 or 10 by the sounds of it, or 8 or 9 or 11. But yeah, in the ongoing conversations, perhaps if you can delegate, agree that it's on the political balance, and then delegate the decision to me in consultation with the group leaders, whatever number you ultimately end up with. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. Right, I can see no more hands raised. Councillor Fabian King, you had your hand raised earlier. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, Henry, in fact, answered the point I was inquiring about. So all done. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, committee. We need to propose something, whether it's going to be 7 or 10 people. Would someone like to make a suggestion? Is there a proposer coming forward? Councillor Ranger.
Yeah, I'm happy to propose that we have a committee of Taff membership of 10, if others are in agreement with that, and that the terms of reference should be looked at again at that first meeting, and that established, and some timescales put in, some priority timescales. So what thing, for the budget, when that has to be agreed by, because that might help us to organise ourselves.
I'm happy to second that.
Right.
Check. Can I just check that is on the basis of political balance with authority to the monitoring officer to agree with group leadership, please?
Yes.
The proposer.
Yeah, but we've got Councillor. Well, the hand's gone down now. Right, we've got a proposal and a seconder. Would the committee like to vote on that? Is it raising your blue hand, Henry?
Yes. So, can all those in favour of a size of 10 members, politically balanced, with authority to the monitoring officer to agree with the group leaders who those members are, and that the terms of reference will be looked at again at the first meeting of the Taff, and obviously that will also look at the timelines for reporting. So all those who are in favour of that, can you show by raising, sorry, by this green tick, isn't it? By green tick, please. And if you're against that, by red cross. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. That's 8 in favour, which is the total vote.
Thank you. So that motion's passed. Right, the forward plan. I first invite non-members to speak by raising their virtual blue hand. Once non-members have spoken, I will then invite members of the committee to speak. So is there any members like to speak about forward plans? Councillor Mike Allen.
Thank you, Chairman. Is it appropriate that we talk about the poverty proposal at this point in time?
No, we can speak about that in a minute if that's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Fine. Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Faithful.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, everyone knows I put the form in for the just look feedback on the election, and if there's any comments or anything like that, is there something for it needs scoping or anything like that? Is that for Henry to discuss? I don't know.
But yes, Henry would have to make a decision about the scoping and that. Yes.
Perhaps, Chair, if it might help just to explain what happened. So the agenda was issued, and it wasn't appreciated that Councillor Allen had put a proposal form in before the deadline for the agenda issue, and that's why it was reissued with Councillor Allen's proposal form on there, because it had been submitted in time. Councillor Faithful, yours was submitted after the agenda publication, so out of time. So that will now appear on the next scrutiny agenda as a proposal form with comments in it for the committee to consider.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Chair. My comments were very much based on the Councillor Allen's poverty proposal. So would you like me to wait until we get to that point of the debate, or would you like me to comment on it now?
No, you commented afterwards, that's okay.
Oh, that's absolutely fine if that's okay. Thanks very much, Chair.
Yeah. Councillor Ranger.
So just as a general point, make sure that everyone is aware that Debbie Meakin has restructured the proposal form, the scrutiny proposal form, to make it easier for completion, because I did make the comment before that it was a bit clunky to complete previously. It had boxes on it that used to jump around. So for any member that wants to put forward an item for scrutiny, that form is available and is the form that is going to be used now for putting items forward. Just make sure that everybody is clear on that. Yes.
Right. We do have a proposal form submitted for consideration by scrutiny from Councillor Mike Allen on poverty. Would any members like to ask the question on it?
I think Councillor Allen wanted to introduce it, perhaps, Chair, if that would.
Yeah, Councillor Allen first, yes.
Thank you, Chairman. Scrutiny is got a role of being a critical friend, and the poverty agenda is becoming even more urgent than it was when I first introduced a paper to overview in August 2019. And the present portfolio holder has been in place since the new council was elected, and has been instructed by council to form a poverty working group. So that's a strategic move. My proposal is to look back over what has been done so far as a critical friend, and look to how well Simon Davey and John Golding and Andrew Wood's teams have dealt with poverty through this horrendous COVID-19 epidemic period, but with an eye on the future, in that we need to actually find lessons out of what they found worked and what didn't work. And that's the purpose of scrutiny, to do that kind of look backwards and find out what's working and come up with suggestions. In the last 11 months, Megan Armstrong hasn't put the poverty working group into practice, but I'm glad to say that as soon as my proposal was on the scrutiny agenda, the poverty working group was formed to meet on the 12th of October. Now, I can't possibly link the two things together, of course, but I am glad that the whole thing is beginning to move forward because it's critical. We reported just recently that the team handled something like 1,500 universal benefit proposals, but in fact, statistics have shown that the numbers have grown from 1,500 UCs to 8,550, according to my data from the Job Centre Plus. There's something in excess of 7,000 children in poverty, and half of them are in working families. And this was an issue which Councillor Golding and Councillor Rylance brought in way back, I think April of 2019, I could be wrong. So this is an absolutely essential thing that we put into place, a review of what works and what needs still to be looked at in terms of future activity. And to do that, that will help the poverty working group, but it does need a summary of what's been going on, not just inside our council, but with respect of our relationships with our partners and what's worked with the joint groups and what hasn't and what needs to improve. So the proposal is put forward to have this look at the extent to which homelessness and poverty is being dealt with by East Devon Council and what's happening in our area, and is the public perception of our council that we're doing a good job or not. My perception is we're doing a fabulous job, even down to collecting the rubbish right the way through COVID. But that's my perception. It's not necessarily what the public think. We also need to look again at how we fund our poverty agenda, because we've never really arranged any budget, and the poverty working group hasn't got terms of reference. So there's a whole lot of things that haven't been done and need to be done. So we need to look at what the voluntary sector has actually been doing. We need to look at what's worked and what still needs to work. And we need to look at how other councils work and gather that information in. And that might overlap with the poverty working group, but I stress we need to look at it, and we need to look at it fast, because my guess is that in the autumn and winter, we're going to find a surge of unemployment. People are going to lose jobs after the summer lull when a lot of work was around. We're going to find a lot of the young people and some of the poorer members of community are going to lose their jobs. And poverty is going to get worse. And we can't just wait going through bureaucratic processes. We need to look now as fast as possible about what we've done well, what we could improve on, and then get on doing it. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to bring this to scrutiny, and I hope that members will feel able to proceed with a scrutiny activity which will look at this area. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Chair. Before Councillor Allen spoke, I was going to give my view that I didn't think this item would be necessary, and I was concerned that it would reinvent the wheel, given that the Poverty Working Panel is cross-party and has recently been set up. But in the course of his Councillor Allen's speech, I've completely changed my mind and think that this probably is something that scrutiny could usefully contribute to, and I'm assured that it won't disrupt or duplicate the work of the Poverty Working Panel, which both Councillor Allen and myself sit on. I will point out, just to reassure Councillor Allen, the date that has gone into the diary for the Poverty Working Panel, you know, the portfolio holder has been doing her best to get a meeting early, as early as possible. So just to assure him, there's no, the administration is not in any way trying to delay this, and doesn't not take this extremely important subject as urgently, which we all do. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Parr.
Well, I was going to say exactly that, really, and I'm looking at the monitoring officer comments, and I think it's very important that the two panels have a separate, or at least keep in touch, because we don't want them duplicating.
No. Thank you. Is there any other people that want to speak on this? Oh, Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I think it probably would help the Poverty Working Party if Scrutiny did have a look at previous work done, and where the Scrutiny Committee think improvements could take place. It would save the Poverty Working Party of going over old ground if we can say, actually, this didn't work terribly well. Why, you know, could you try it another way? It might be helpful. And I think that's what Scrutiny is there for, to scrutinise previous work, and hopefully say, you know, let's find another way forward here. This was good, but this could be done better. And I think that would probably help the chairman of the Poverty Working Group and its members if we could have a look at it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Megan Armstrong. Councillor Armstrong, you've got your blue hand raised. No?
Might be because she's muted.
Hmm.
Can't unmute her, unfortunately.
Right.
Perhaps shout, Chair.
Yeah. Councillor Armstrong. Oh, well, we're getting something.
Thank you. It would, yeah. Sorry about that. I'll start again. I've forgotten what I was going to say now. Yeah, I'm just concerned, and thank you to Councillor Miller for pointing out that actually I have been trying to get this panel working, and as all members will be aware, that there have been reasons for the delay. I have to say that. And they have been explained several times to certain members, particularly the members who sit on that panel, because of the change of administration, because of COVID. The first meeting couldn't be held back in April because we were not able to hold it at that stage. So everybody, including Councillor Allen, is aware of that, and I'm trusting that he'll accept the reasons for that. And I'm sorry to say that the date that's now been fixed wasn't anything to do with what he was proposing tonight. So I'm sorry to disappoint you if you thought that. But I'm just concerned. I am concerned about the duplication of effort, because on the agenda for that, which will be going out in the next week or two, on the agenda for the Poverty Working Panel, there is going to be an item about COVID and how we've coped with that in the last few months, what we need to improve on, if what we've done, what we need to improve on, and how to do things going forward if there is another peak in the virus. So I'm more than happy to look at that, and I'm trying to get my head around what would be the difference between looking at it at the Poverty Working Panel and having this scrutiny, if there's going to be a huge difference and there's going to be something a lot better done by the Taff or whatever is set up from this committee, then we'll have to think about that. But I'm not quite sure whether there is. And the other issue I'm concerned about is the amount of work that we're asking members to do, staff members to do, in preparation for that, because that would be perhaps a doubling up of what we would be asking them to do for the poverty working panel. So I'm just a bit concerned about that. But all I'm saying is that on the agenda for the poverty working panel, there will be an item on COVID and how we've responded, and we would take it forward from there. And that's all I want to say for the minute. I might want to say something in a minute, depending on what Councillor Allen or anybody else wants to say.
Right, thank you. Councillor Ranger.
Thank you. I was just wondering that if we were to propose or recommend that this item goes forward for scoping, if part of that scoping exercise wouldn't be to ensure that there is no overlap with what the poverty working panel are doing, to make sure that that this lends to that or works alongside it, that they're not just duplicating. So I would be very happy to recommend that it went forward, that it was put forward for scoping, and see where we sit with it.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be able to come back to committee because our next meeting is in 3 weeks' time. That wouldn't be enough time really for the officers to do their work. So it would come back to committee after the poverty group meets, I would say. Do you think so, Henry?
I think well, I mean, scoping isn't rigorous. That's probably not quite a way to put it, is it? It's not as in depth as the reports. Honestly, I mean, there's been a lot of work done, hasn't there? So I don't think it's unrealistic for a scoping report to come back for the next committee. I don't know whether John is still here. I think he is. So it might be a better one for John to answer in terms of the time for it. But I don't think it's honestly. I don't think it's unrealistic. The bigger issue, I think, is trying to gel the two together so that the scope for the scrutiny involvement doesn't go over the work of poverty. Bearing in mind the panel, bearing in mind that it hasn't met and won't meet until just prior to the next overview meeting. So it's just making sure that sort of delineation of responsibilities is quite clear. But I certainly think something could come forward for the next meeting.
Yeah, because the next meeting's only 3 weeks away, isn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, I do also get that if you are going to do it, time will march on, and again, the panel will be doing its work, and you don't want to unnecessarily delay. So I think if the committee is minded to take it to scoping, is that you do try and probably get it to the next meeting with a view to then seeing how that work pans out, and also how it works with the panel. So. I think if you're minded, my inclination would be you do try and get it to the next meeting.
Right. We've got 2 blue hands raised, and then we'll take a vote. Councillor Allen, you want to come back on it, and so did Councillor Megan Armstrong. Councillor Allen, do you want to go first?
Yeah, thank you ever so much. I think that in view of the fact that the poverty working panel group hasn't yet had terms of reference and hasn't had its agenda even published yet, that it would be a great value if Henry would work on scoping the difference between the two and how they would contribute. My understanding is a strategy looks forward and a scrutiny looks over what's happened. So I don't think it's going to be vastly difficult to have Henry scope it out and come back in 3 weeks' time. And frankly, it's not just John Golding's area, although he's got a vast area he works in. It's also Simon Davey, it's also economic development. So I think it would be of great value for Henry to scope it.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong, you want to come back? No? Right. No, she's muted. Right.
No, I'm not. It just keeps not working. I'm sorry about that. It just keeps not unmuting when I want it to. Somebody's sorting this out for me, aren't they? They're doing this on purpose. Yeah, there are terms of reference, and John, I was going to ask if John Golding wanted to say something as well, to put his point of view. But the terms of reference, as far as I'm aware, is to input into the council's poverty strategy. That's what the terms of reference are. That's the reason for it, because the council yet, as members will already know, we don't have a poverty strategy. And so the idea is for the poverty working panel to work towards and helping towards and inputting into that poverty strategy. So that's what the terms of reference are. And if I've missed anything out, John, please, or I've got that wrong, please say, but that's my understanding and that's what I will be working towards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John, did you want to say something? John Golding?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The comment I would make is that there is a report that's going to Cabinet's next meeting on the recovery work that we've been doing as a council, and quite a lot of that covers the poverty agenda. So some of that may be addressed in that report. My priority is to look forward, I have to say, and try and ensure that we've got a strategy in place as soon as possible. So I'd like to put as much energy as possible into the poverty working panel to get us to a clearer position in terms of the council's ability to tackle poverty for the residents of the district.
Thank you. Right, committee. We have a proposal put before us by Councillor Val Ranger. Have we a seconder for that?
Yeah, I'm happy to second that. Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself.
Right, we have a proposer and a seconder. Can we go to the votes?
Yes, Chair. Carry on if you like.
I was going to say, go on, Henry, sorry.
No, if you're keen to do it. Yes, just a green tick for those who are in favour of this going forward to scoping, or a red cross if you're not. Please vote.
Chair, that's 7 votes for, and that's the total votes cast.
All right, thank you. So that motion is carried. Right. We need to get people to complete the forms with regards to what comes forward and what comes forward for scoping on the committee. So if people could come up with some reasoning and ideas and that and complete the forms, it would be appreciated so we can find a way forward. Thank you. Right, I think that brings the meeting to an end. And I would like to thank everyone, including any member of the public watching online, for taking part. However, I can just remind all those present that supporting officers will confirm when the meeting is no longer recording or going live. Until then,